First of all, Antarctica, they say, is a continent which is about double the size of Australia, but it is also the mainland of Antarctica is covered with a sheet of ice, which is roughly 2 kilometers thick. Okay, so it's over 6,000 feet thick ice covers the whole continent. They say that if this ice was to melt, that the sea levels across the world will rise by 200 feet. Okay, so that's how much ice. It contains 90% of the ice in the world is in Antarctica. So these are some facts that we are told by various people, okay, and various organizations like NASA. So here's from weatheronline.co.uk. It tells us Antarctica is the coldest continent on Earth and has a climate of extremes. The continent is snow and ice covered with freezing temperatures all year round, so it never goes above freezing. So-called Catabian, Catabian, Catabian winds can cause violent snowstorms that can last for days and sometimes even weeks, okay, making it very dangerous to stay outside. Antarctica knows periods of sunlight and daylight and darkness called polar summer, which is from May to September, and polar winter from end November to March. The polar summer with daytime temperatures between -20 and -5 degrees Celsius is the only time to travel to Antarctica because the conditions are too severe during the winter months with extreme cold temperatures, violent storms, darkness, and ice-bound sea. Note, be prepared for extreme weather conditions at any time. The weather can change very quickly in Antarctica. Sunshine can change to a serious snowstorm from one moment to the other. This picture that you're looking at, it is, if it is from the Antarctic, because a lot of these pictures, when you Google them, they are actually not from the Antarctic. They are from the Arctic, or they are from Greenland, or northern Yukon in Canada, or from Russia. But anyhow, let's say that it is from the Antarctic. Then this picture is not from the mainland, okay? It is from the far northern, closer to South America, peninsular islands, which people visit. What I'm trying to highlight here is that the reality of Antarctica, its geography, its climate, etc., is quite different than what people have in their minds, with cute little penguins floating around and little ice floes and all that kind of stuff. Okay, I'm going to play a little video for you here, okay, which is going to be, I think, a shock for most people. And my hats off to these guys who are doing this stuff. You guys are crazy, but this will give you an idea of what you are dealing with once you get away from these islands that surround this ice wall, and you start moving inwards where these mountains are that Richard Byrd said, contains a lot of coal, oil, uranium, and all that kind of stuff.
This is one of the most challenging environments for a climber you can visit anywhere on planet Earth. It'll be spicy for sure. We're heading out on a ski tour to circumnavigate one range of peaks. Survey the peaks from different angles and kind of come up with an action plan of different lines we want to try to climb, different mountains we want to explore further.
I'm just holding it and then just bam, it'll go down.
Well, okay.
In watching Mike take off, as soon as the wind picked up his canopy and he shot out of there like a slingshot, immediately we realized this was a terrible idea. So we strapped our skins back on and just started trekking. As the sun was setting, this really heavy storm kicked in.
I just want to draw certain facts that we can learn from this video of these guys going up mountain climbing in Antarctica. Okay, first of all, the distance. Okay, they take off from Johannesburg, South Africa, and this flight that they take to get to The just what you might call the mainland, okay, was about 12, 14 hours. It was a long flight. And then from there, they had to jump on another plane to go into the interior where these mountains are. So these mountains are nowhere near the coastline, okay? They are quite far inland. That is one fact. Second fact is that these conditions that you will see in this video are very extreme. But this is during their summer months, which are the best months of the year. This will be like in February, March, around there, which are the best months to go down there. Okay, and I can't even imagine how bad it gets during the winter months, which are there, July, August, September, somewhere in there. This will be the winter time down there.
Immediately, we had to start working together as a team, digging in hard and fast. The only thing we could find was this really tiny boulder that we could take shelter behind.
We've got about 3-foot drift in our vestibule, the front door of our tent that I had to dig out. The wind's super high and we're just trying to deal head down, sufferfest. Just trying to survive more than anything else right now.
I'm looking for a route that'll reveal itself, and hopefully we can connect some lines and find something and go climbing.
Day 3 of our ski tour, just getting ready to go crush and see what's around the corner on this huge, massive blue ice plateau. It's like being on the coast of a frozen ocean.
We were all shocked to stumble upon this Indian capsule out in the middle of nowhere.
You can see this survival shelter or this living unit was just bowled over by 150-mile-an-hour winds. Who knows, maybe stronger. Definitely makes you feel a little bit vulnerable, fragile human out here. We could just be taken out at any time, no doubt about it.
The weather here, it's raw and it's brutal, and it just beats the shit out of you.
"150-mile-an-hour wind speeds are that's like a Category 4 hurricane, okay? And this is not uncommon there. Like this weather is this is the weather down there year long, and it can spring up anytime. So that you have like a 2-3 months of just calm and weather where you can just go exploring. It is not reality. The reality is that it's like when you go climbing in Everest. There's if you want to see the movie Everest, it's quite an intense movie, but in it you learn that the window that the weather is it can change on a dime, so that the window of opportunity to do much of mountain climbing up on Everest, as it would be in the case here in Antarctica, is very, very limited. So that means that also the window of opportunity for exploration is also very, very limited.
After that recon to look for routes, getting back to our camp, it was ravaged. The katabatic winds had come in and just had its way with our camp and destroyed it. A couple of the tents that we'd left set up were completely covered by spindrift snow. Poles broken, tents collapsed. Without us there to maintain it, it was destroyed.
The crazy thing is it hasn't snowed an inch since we've been here. That's all wind-driven snow. So,
Savage, dude.
pretty savage.
Technically, Antarctica is a desert because it doesn't get much precipitation. However, that doesn't mean the snowdrifts, and massive snowdrifts at that, are not a problem there. They are a very, very big problem. And one of the things I've noticed is when you do Google search on Antarctica bases, etc., that most of those photos are fake, that they are photos of bases in the Arctic or in the Greenland or somewhere in upper northern Canada, in the Yukon or Northwest Territories or somewhere around there. Because one thing you will notice in those pictures is the structures that would not be able to handle this massive, snow drifts and snowstorms and massive winds that spring up. And secondly, you'll also notice in those pictures is a distinct lack of snow clearing equipment. The point is that the majority of pictures that you will see online that are purportedly from Antarctica, and some of them even show polar bears, just ridiculous things like wolves. Anyhow, they are not from Antarctica. They are mostly from the Arctic regions, and they are placed there deliberately to try and fool you that what you're looking at is Antarctica. Most of the real pictures of Antarctica, like I said, are of the outer islands, and I would also venture to think that most of the so-called Antarctic bases, they are located either on these peninsular islands, or if they are actually on what would be considered to be the mainland, they are very close to the coast. They are not inland at all.
Look at this. This is fucked.
Real deal, man. Antarctica.
Yes, the link is in the description, so you can watch it. These videos, they are quite interesting because they show us the reality of what's on the ground, up or down there, as opposed to what we have been led to believe.
Admiral, you speak of the resources of Antarctica. What are they? What are the natural resources there?
Well, we've found enough of coal within 180 miles of the South Pole in a great ridge of mountains. It's not covered with snow, enough to supply the whole world for quite a while.
Well,
that's the coal. Now, there's evidence of many other minerals. We are pretty sure there's oil. Now, that coal shows the bottom of the world. Now, by far the coldest spot in the world. Where that coal is gets 100 below zero in the winter.
Now, the good Admiral is telling us that about all these wonderful resources that are in Antarctica. So now you've seen the harsh conditions that exist down there and the great distances that have to be covered. Okay, even with modern machines like modern planes, modern equipment, it is very, very difficult and very dangerous to get down there. Now the question is that how did Admiral Byrd, back in those days when planes had much shorter ranges, the ships were not as reliable as they are today, and how was he able to explore this whole vast continent, as they call it? Explored it enough to discover that there was enough coal to supply the whole world. Okay, and then by his own admission, he goes on to say that it's the temperature there goes to 100 below zero. Okay. So does this place have any kind of value whatsoever as a resource to supply resources? Just think of the difficulty or the near impossibility of actually being able to mine. Let's say there coal is there to be able to mine it, or there's oil is there to be able to extract it, or if there's uranium there, yeah, maybe, okay, uranium you may be able to because it has enough value that it can be commercial value, that it can be worthwhile. But just think, and he said this is within 180 miles of the South Pole. And how far is the South Pole already inland? To get that from there back to the coast, down the 6,000 feet cliffs and into the oceans, and then to bring it over and supply it. Makes no sense. So this story that that it has some sort of value as because it has a lot of resources, this to me sounds like a big smokescreen that first of all, it is doubtful that they were able to explore it to that extent. And secondly, given the conditions that exist down there, and secondly, even if these resources that do exist, they are not going to be, they might as well be on in another galaxy or something for the difficulty and the cost that it will be to extract them and to bring them to market. Now the story of Operation High Jump and Admiral Richard E. Byrd, it gets even more bizarre. Again, this I'm just concentrating on his Antarctic explorations, or his alleged Antarctic explorations, not even what we have read about him being at the North Pole and inside the Earth and all that. So here, let's continue watching this video.
Well,
it was once tropical. So we think there's oil there, and there's evidence, probably uranium there.
Are there that many expeditions now there or en route there?
Well, you know, as I said, it's the most peaceful place in the world, but I don't think it will be for long because of this intense interest on the part of other nations and this nation.
Distinguished guest was Admiral Richard E. Byrd.
Okay, the problem, in my opinion, is that most people buy information coming from sources such as Admiral Byrd without applying any sort of critical thinking to what they are saying. One thing people do not realize, that the science of propaganda was perfected very much so during the early years of the 20th century, from the I would say even from the very early part, from the First World War on especially, and through the end of the Second World War, it had been pretty much perfected by the Brits, by the Germans, and by the Americans, all of whom worked together. And this is one of the major functions of the defense industry, so-called defense industry, defense department, was propaganda movie productions. And they had actors that were employed to go out there and spread the fictions that the Defense Department wanted to spread, such as Roswell, okay, in 1947. Complete fiction, completely scripted. And this here interview with Richard Byrd and all his interviews and his secret diaries and all that such, it is all scripted Hollywood fiction. And in this interview, what he is saying is, if you listen closely, he is promoting certain memes which have been absolutely scripted, and this interview is not impromptu. It is not, something that you would expect honest answers in. What he says is that, he in the early part of the interview, if you can go back to online, you can listen to the whole thing. He talks about the North Pole and the South Pole. So he is reinforcing the globe meme, that the world is a globe, that the Earth is a globe, okay? That he's been to the North Pole and now he's been to the South Pole, both of which are a lie. On a flat Earth, we don't have a North Pole and we don't have a South Pole. What we have is a center of the Earth, and we have the ends of the Earth. Okay, the center of the Earth could be called the North Pole, and the ends of the Earth would be Antarctica. Okay, then he goes on to promote other fictions, such as that of evolution, such as that of dinosaurs, fossil fuels, etc. What does he tell us? Oh, Antarctica was once a tropical paradise. No, it was not. Okay, there's nothing in history to suggest there are no trees there. There is no animal life there. There is nothing. It is a barren. It is basically a world of ice. That's what it is. It's an icy world. We don't even know if there is any land underneath it or not, but there may be. But it is definitely, all it is a wall of ice. Okay, and therefore this idea that it was tropical is all another fiction. Then he promotes the idea of fossil fuels. Oh yeah, there was tropical, so there's oil there. Okay, he doesn't say that he found oil there. He's just speculating. Okay, and most people think that, oh yeah, there's oil there. And as I said just recently, just in the previous a few minutes ago, is that even if there is, so what? How are you going to extract it and bring it to market? The cost would be prohibitive. The technology employed to extract it would be prohibitive. Can you go through 2 miles of ice to extract oil? Come on, man, give me a break, will you? Okay, it's a ridiculous idea. So he is promoting this idea that Antarctic is just like any other place on Earth. It is not. It is completely different. Even compared to the Arctic, it is an entirely different world down there. Okay, and this was the mission of this man, was to go out there and spread this false information. He talks about uranium. He talks about, the governments are interested. So before you know it, everybody's going to be making a beeline down there. You'll have Exxon, Mobil, Royal Dutch Shell. You watch it, all these companies are going to be down there. They're going to be extracting all this oil and all this. Well, none of that stuff happened, right? This interview is from like 60 years ago. How many people are down there at any given time? The estimate, there are like between 500 and maybe a couple thousand people in that whole Antarctic region at any given time. Okay, and those numbers even are suspect. And they have all these big research stations and all that, which is just another hoax in my opinion. All these guys, they go down there, they sit around for 6 months, and then they come home. They might take some air temperatures and all that, and that's about all that happens down there. Because This is the most inhospitable place on the face of the earth. It is the most extreme climates. Nothing can survive down there, and nothing is feasible in far as creating any kind of industries or mining or anything sort of thing. So this whole interview with Richard Byrd was a complete hoax. Okay, and now let's talk about Operation High Jump. While I'm on the topic, I just want to mention one thing. I want to compare his missions to the moon missions. Okay, most people who are especially now believers in flat Earth, they understand that the moon missions were a hoax, and those interviews with what was his name, Neil Armstrong and all the other guys were a complete joke. But at the same time, the very same people that buy everything that Richard Byrd is saying as gospel truth. No, he's just an early version of Neil Armstrong. And all these interviews and all his missions, they also were a hoax. And all these interviews are just as fake as those of Neil Armstrong and the other guys. Yeah, before I go to Operation High Jump, I just wanted to point out that in this clip that with Richard Byrd here, like he's got a big smirk on his face as he's answering. He has to put the hand across his face because he is laughing. He's laughing because he knows everything he's saying is BS, and he is essentially laughing at the stupid listeners who are going to listen to this stuff and swallow it hook, line, and sinker without any question whatsoever. Okay, now let's just jump through the hoops a little bit and talk a little bit about Operation High Jump. Okay, let me just say this about Operation High Jump to begin with. Every year, the U.S. Navy, any of the services of the defense services like the Air Force or the military, they conduct thousands of operations. Ask yourself, how many is it that you really see about? How many of them are shown on television? How many of them are movies produced and readily available on YouTube about? Okay. Point here is that the business of the defense industry, the Navy, the Marines, the Air Force, etc., what they do and the operations they run, they are very closely guarded secrets. They are not advertised. In contrast, this Operation High Jump, I will have to say that this has to be one of the most advertised operations in the history of the Defense Department. This dog has heard about Operation High Jump. Movies have been made about it. Stories have been written. Books have been written about it. Okay? Yet, there are probably less books about, what went on at Dunkirk or something in the Second World War than there are about High Jump on YouTube right now. Why? Why? Again, I want to draw a parallel between this and Roswell because it's a psyop. Right from the beginning, the whole career of Richard Byrd was, by the way, a psyop. I'll do another video separately about talking about who this man was and what it turns out to, that this was a blue-blooded, like, insider establishment boy, if there ever was one. His lineage goes right back down to the early colonial days, and he comes, somebody in his family was actually married to Pocahontas. The man was an East Coast establishment boy who was made an admiral by a decree of Congress. He was not like one of these guys that rises up in the ranks and he's a career Navy man. He was not. And you know what? If they did want to mount this invasion of Antarctica as this Operation High Jump stories go, and I'll play a couple of clips here for you, with beautiful music, sounds exactly like a Hollywood movie, and my friends, that's what it is. It's a Hollywood movie. And therefore, instead of, getting one of their battle-hardened admirals in there to lead the fleet, they recommission Admiral Byrd and send him down there with like movie crews, with him giving interviews in Chile, with like coded terminology. Oh, there's going to be a new enemy who's going to be coming from the poles. Whoo! Be afraid, be very afraid. The Nazis are down there. All garbage stories. Okay. Now let's see what is Operation High Jump. What kind of information is out there, and how many people are spreading it? You can hear stories about this on Coast to Coast, and just about every alternative conspiracy guy, they're spreading the same story. And what I have discovered is the more it's out there, the more likely it is that this is all fake. And I'm 100% convinced that this whole story is a fake, like Richard Byrd's career right from beginning to end.